And today with Krista Knight.
Oh, hello.
From Youth Theater in Berkeley.
Yeah, YMTC.
YMTC. So tell us a little bit more about what's going on for you and why it's important that you would be talking to us today about this brand new work you've been producing.
Yeah. So famed composer and I, Dave Malloy, are writing a dance-a-thon musical to the death called Don't Stop Me, which is world premiering at YMTC this July. We open July 17th. It is still very much being written. So even as we're in rehearsal, it is very much coming together. So it's an exciting, if harrowing, process.
How did you get involved with this particular venue or framework in Berkeley?
So I have been writing kids' plays for Berkeley Rep for a couple years now. And the first summer that I was doing that, I saw YMTC's production of Jesus Christ Superstar when it was at the Ashby stage. And I remember seeing it and I was like, this is amazing! You know, like this is teenagers in the show, but the production values were amazing, that, you know, they were rehearsed. It was sort of virtuosic in its presentation. And I wrote to them, which I sometimes do, which sometimes pays off, sometimes does not. And I said, I am a writer in town from New York City, and I just saw your most amazing production of Jesus Christ Superstar. Do you ever do new work? And the director was like, maybe, you know, we haven't really, but it's something that we would consider. So we've really created, the composer Dave Malloy and I have really created this piece in conjunction with the YMTC company. So we started out with like a sort of weekend retreat where we met with a bunch of the young people who work with YMTC. Some of our actors are in college, most are in high school, so the time that everybody has available is this limited window.
They're still in school, they're still involved with their standard activities, they are not performers yet.
I would say they're performers to be now, and professional performers imminently. But yeah, most of them, if not all of them, are still students.
So you mentioned New York. Is that where you came from? And tell us a little bit more about your journey as a playwright.
Yeah. So I feel like the life of a playwright, at least for me, is very sort of. A friend of mine calls it megalopolitan because you have to sort of be in a whole bunch of different cities at any given time. So I spend time, probably about a third of my time in New York City, a third of my time in upstate New York where I'm a professor, and then a third of my time here. We've probably been working on the show now for, maybe 3 years from the sort of the first workshop process where we got together with the actors and brainstormed with them what subjects were important to them and what the narrative might be, up until this point, which is the, rehearsing and going into the full production. But I've been back and forth out to California. I think this is for that first initial weekend of brainstorming, and then we've done 2 workshops with YMTC. And this is the culmination of the creation process, will be this premiere.
It's wonderful to have your voice in the creation, especially seeing things from last week or from yesterday or from that workshop ages ago that I said or other people said that I remember, and seeing them sort of appear in the show and change it in little ways to huge ways is really just sort of awesome.
Dancing play, host medieval raps and hilarious French hats. So just make sure you're kind of on top of the beat, especially at the end. It shouldn't slow down at all.
Tight collaboration, it seems, with the music composer.
Yes, Dave Malloy.
This piece. Is this where the piece is coming from, or is this primarily a written piece? How would you characterize the beginning of the collaboration?
So when I initially wrote to YMTC, and I was just like, I'm a fan, I write, let me know if you'd ever want to talk further. They had mentioned that they had wanted for a while to commission this composer, Dave Malloy, who you may know from Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812, that was in New York for a long time, and now his show Preludes, which is at Lincoln Center. And So they said, we know Dave Malloy, and he happened to have just read, I think, a piece of mine, and he said, oh, sure, I know Krista Knight. And so we met for coffee, and we're like, if we were to write a brand new musical for teenagers, for and with teenagers, what might that look like? And we talked about, I think, maybe 5 or 6 ideas. Don't Stop Me is the one that we landed on. The structure is a dance-a-thon to the death. You are, eliminated physically as well as metaphorically. And in each one of the dancing heats, we're transported to a different musical and historic era. So I believe this is a picture from when we're transported to the dancing plague of 1516 in Strasbourg, France, when people couldn't stop dancing and they sort of danced themselves to death, essentially.
Oh, is it so? They couldn't stop dancing during the plague?
Yeah, well,
That's
it was called the Dancing Plague. Yeah.
Tell me more about that episode.
So, 1516, Strasbourg, France. It was about, I guess, 200 years after the bubonic plague. And it was just one of the examples of sort of a mass public hysteria where people just couldn't stop dancing. And so the town, instead of, I guess, sort of holding them down or strapping them to cots, they set up a band in the town square and allowed people to sort of dance themselves into exhaustion.
Case of hysteria caused by the bubonic plague in its early manifestations.
A little bit after, yeah.
I see.
Yeah, and so this is one of the scenes in the show. Sort of takes us back in a very theatrical way. Takes us back to 16th century Strasbourg, France.
Tell us more about the synopsis, the story in this show. I didn't know there was bubonic plague involved. I thought it was like a happy show for kids, maybe with hand puppets.
I know, you'd hope. I know, you can't win every time. So in this, it's actually a quite dark piece. A lot of the brainstorm that we did with the young people was sort of about the different pressures in their lives and these sort of this propulsion forward in the sense of like you can't stop. You have to keep going. And so the Dance-a-thon is sort of a metaphor for that. And the different historical eras that we go to, the first is the medieval dancing plague. The second is a jazz era prohibition speakeasy. Then we go to a Wild West showdown, let's see, where else do we go? Oh, we go to an ancient Grecian bacchanal, where essentially one of the characters is sort of ripped apart by, the frenzy of the mob. And then we go to a future dystopia. And each one of these places is allowing us to hear a different style of music as well.
Live. Dance. A-thon. From the Plains Spring High Gymnasium.
Yeah, so this is the opening number of the show. So this is as we meet the characters during a live telecast from a high school gymnasium. So we, as the audience, are sort of watching it as though we're watching it on YouTube or live streaming it, like this show. And we see them in sort of a demonstration where they tell us the rules of the dance. And the characters don't know at the beginning of the show the real stakes of this competition. They think that, if they stop dancing or if they stop moving, they are merely out of the competition. When in fact, it's much more fantastical, and to be out of the competition means to be out of your mortality as well.
The day that he brought in the music for the medieval masque, and nobody knew what it was going to be, and then it wound up being something really cool, and everyone was saying, oh, this is so cool, it's finally starting to come together, and that was a magical moment that you really don't get with established pieces of work.
I believe a lot of the actors who are in the show are YMTC regulars, young people who have been performing with this company for several years now, and these were really a chance for the actors to have a hand in the creation process. And to create theater that's important to them and says the things that they want to say.
Give them something really stellar, really professional, that can also speak to their experience and have them be playing themselves. And we think that'll go far. There'll be companies and students, young artists all over the country who would want to do that.
So Don't Stop Me, that's the name of the show. Why do you think Bay Area theater goers should go see that show specifically? They only have a week or so to do it.
Yeah.
Tell us why this is an important piece of theater that people should mobilize to go support.
Yeah. Well, I think it's exciting. I think it's edgy. I think it's a great example of what sort of people can put together, new material that can be put together. I mean, I remember when I grew up in the Bay Area, and I didn't even know that, playwrights existed until I went to college. I didn't see any new work happening. And so I think for people to be able to see, something that is on the lips and mouths of the upcoming generation is really important. Also, presented in this wonderful way with beautiful music and very cool dance.
So you didn't know about these things as a child, and that's sort of your way of giving back to the community? Is that the gist of your intention here?
Yeah. I mean, I always loved doing theater. I always did theater. But I didn't see a place for myself in it. I acted because that's what you can do, but I didn't know that writers of theater still existed. I thought it was something that people, like roof thatching or spice trading or something that people used to do a long time ago, but was now sort of set in stone. Whereas, in fact, there's actually some really exciting things happening in the theater.
All right, Krista, well, thank you for coming to visit us here at SF Commons. Appreciate your visit.
Thank you.
We will make sure that people hear about this show and support the wonderful initiatives that are happening there in the future. Keep us posted about your own work. I believe your website is kristenknight.com, is that correct?
Yep, that's me.
So we'd love to stay in touch and see what else you come up with in the future.
Great.
And everybody, thank you for watching. This was Miss What Presents, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Check it out.